Let me share with you the deepest secret of manifestation. A secret so powerful that, once understood, it will completely revolutionize the way you see life. Many of you ask why your manifestations are delayed, why your desires seem to take so long to materialize in your world. Tonight I will reveal why, and more importantly, how to manifest your desires with astonishing speed. Let me begin with a principle most of the world has misunderstood. In the book of John, it is written, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Now, what is this word? This word, my dear friends, is not something spoken by the physical lips. The word is your inner conversation, your mental dialogue, running ceaselessly through your mind day and night. Most people manifest slowly, or not at all, because they fail to grasp this fundamental truth. Your inner conversation is the cause of everything in your world. Everything. Not some things, not most things. Everything. When you truly understand this, you'll begin to manifest so quickly that others will call it miraculous. Let me share a story I heard last week. A woman approached me after one of my talks, eyes filled with tears. She had been trying to manifest a reunion with her son, from whom she'd been estranged for 3 years. For years, she tried everything: affirmations, visualization, even traveling across the country to see him. But he refused to meet. After attending my lectures and understanding this principle of inner conversation, she realized her constant inner dialogue was, "Why doesn't my son want to talk to me? What did I do wrong? Will he ever forgive me?" Do you see what she was doing? She was perpetuating the very state of separation through her inner conversation. I instructed her to change her inner dialogue to, "How wonderful it is to talk to my son every day. How beautiful it is to hear his voice filled with love for me." Within a week, yes, just 1 week, her son called. Not only did he call, he apologized for his behavior and expressed a desire to rebuild their relationship. This, dear friends, is the secret that accelerates manifestation. Your inner conversation must match the state you wish to occupy. There must be no contradiction between what you desire and what you tell yourself inwardly about that desire. Let's go deeper. In the book of Matthew, it is written, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." Your treasure is not your desire. Your treasure is your inner conversation about your desire. If you say you desire financial abundance, but your inner dialogue constantly repeats, "I never have enough money. Everything is so expensive. I can't afford this," then that conversation is your true treasure, and that is exactly what you will manifest. The speed of manifestation is directly proportional to the coherence of your inner conversation. When you sustain an inner dialogue perfectly aligned with your desire, without contradiction, without doubt, without wavering, the manifestation must follow as naturally as day follows night. Some of you might be thinking, "But I try to keep positive thoughts, and still my inner conversation seems to have a life of its own." Here's where most stumble. They try to force their inner conversation, control it through sheer willpower. That is not the way. The secret lies in understanding that your inner conversation is not something to be forced. It is something to be assumed. When you truly assume a state, the inner conversation appropriate to that state flows naturally. If you are a prosperous person, truly prosperous in consciousness, you don't need to force thoughts of wealth. The inner dialogue of abundance flows spontaneously because it is natural to the state you have assumed. Let me make this practical. Tonight, when you go to sleep, do something revolutionary. Instead of trying to visualize your desire or repeat affirmations, simply listen to your inner conversation. Don't try to change it yet, just listen. Become aware of what you tell yourself inwardly about yourself, your life, your desires, your relationships, your finances. This awareness is crucial because you'll discover that your current inner conversation perfectly matches the current circumstances of your life. Every detail of your life right now is a manifestation of your habitual inner dialogue. That is why some people can visualize for hours, affirm until they are breathless, and still see no results. Their inner conversation contradicts everything they're trying to manifest. The secret of rapid manifestation lies in this understanding. Change the inner conversation and you will change the outer world. And this is crucial. You must change it naturally by assuming the state of your wish fulfilled. When you assume the state, the right inner dialogue flows effortlessly. Here is a profound truth few understand. Your inner conversation is not only about the specific words you say to yourself, but about the emotional tone behind those words. When you assume a state, the feeling of that state gives rise to an easy, natural inner conversation that matches it. Consider a woman who desires marriage. She might repeat affirmations like, "I am happily married," thousands of times. But if her inner conversation throughout the day is filled with loneliness, doubts about when love will arrive, or uncertainty about finding the right person, those are the conditions she is actually manifesting. But when she assumes the state of a happily married woman, her inner conversation naturally includes phrases like, "My husband is always doing lovely things for me. I love that we cook our favorite meals together." These conversations flow effortlessly because they are natural to the state she has assumed. This leads to another crucial point about rapid manifestation. In the book of Revelation, it is written, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end." This is not speaking of an external deity, but of your consciousness, your I am. Your inner conversation is how you use this creative power of I am. Every time you engage in inner dialogue, you are defining who I am is. When inwardly you say, "I am struggling," "I am trying to manifest," "I am waiting for my desire," you are creating exactly those conditions. The secret to rapid manifestation is to engage in the inner conversation of the fulfilled state, not of the desired state. A word of caution: many of you will feel tempted to monitor your inner conversation constantly, trying to catch every negative thought. That is not what I'm suggesting. Such an approach creates tension and resistance, which only slows manifestation. Instead, simply assume the state of your wish fulfilled and let the natural inner conversation of that state flow. Now let me share something deeper. In the book of Job, it is written, "For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come unto me." This isn't merely ancient wisdom. It precisely describes how your inner conversation creates your reality. Your fears and worries, what you dread, are not passive thoughts. They are powerful inner conversations that manifest with the same certainty as your desires. This is why I tell you not to worry when others speak of recessions, hard times, or impossibilities. Understand that their conversations have no power in your world unless you accept them into your own inner dialogue. The only creative power is your own inner conversation. I recall a gentleman at one of my New York lectures. He was a business owner who'd heard countless experts predict a recession in his industry. Everyone prepared for failure, cutting costs, laying off staff. But this man understood the secret of inner conversation. While others spoke of decline, his inner dialogue remained firm. "My business is thriving. My clients are abundant. Opportunities flow toward me from every direction." His colleagues called him delusional and unrealistic. Yet over 3 months, while other companies struggled, his had its most profitable quarter ever. Coincidence? No, dear friends, law in operation. His inner conversation created a state of consciousness that had to materialize in his world. Here's another accelerator. Your inner conversation must not only match your desire, it must transcend time. Notice how most people's inner dialogue is future-focused. "I will succeed. I will find love. Things will get better." This very conversation pushes their desires perpetually into the future. The secret is to have an inner conversation that speaks from the present, as if your desire is already fulfilled. In the book of Isaiah, it says, "Before they call, I will answer." This is not about an external God answering prayers, but about the law of consciousness. Your inner conversation of the fulfilled wish is the answer, and it precedes physical manifestation. Let me be very specific. If you desire financial abundance, your inner conversation should not be, "Money is coming to me," or "I'm attracting wealth." Those conversations, though seemingly positive, still speak from lack. Instead, your inner dialogue should be that of a wealthy person. "I love how easily money flows in my life. It's wonderful to have more than enough to share. I enjoy choosing the best of everything." Some may object, "Isn't this denying reality? Isn't it lying to ourselves?" Let me end that once and for all. What you call reality is simply the outward manifestation of past inner conversations. Your present circumstances, which seem so solid and real, are nothing but yesterday's inner dialogue made visible. In the book of Hebrews it is written, "Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear." Replace word of God with inner conversation, and you have the exact law I'm revealing tonight. The things seen, your present circumstances, were created by the invisible power of your inner dialogue. Another experience illustrates this perfectly. A young teacher came to me in despair. She'd been assigned the most challenging class in her school, students known to be disruptive and unmanageable. Her inner conversation was filled with fear. "These students won't listen. It's going to be a nightmare. I can't handle this." I explained the secret of inner conversation. She began changing her dialogue too. "My students are engaged and eager to learn. I love how respectful and cooperative my class is. Teaching this class brings me joy every day." She stayed faithful to this new inner conversation, even when the outer circumstances seemed to contradict it. Over 2 weeks, she noticed subtle shifts. Students who had never participated began raising their hands. Disruptions became less frequent. By the end of the month, the transformation was so dramatic that other teachers came to observe what they called her teaching magic. It wasn't magic. It was the law of inner conversation in action. Here's another crucial aspect. Your inner conversation is not limited to your own life circumstances. When you engage in inner dialogue about other people, you influence how they appear in your world. This is why the Bible instructs us to love our enemies and bless those who curse us. These are not mere moral directives, they are practical metaphysical laws. If someone in your world seems hostile or unpleasant, examine your inner conversation about that person. Are you mentally rehearsing their faults, arguing with them in your mind, replaying negative interactions? That inner dialogue is creating and sustaining their behavior in your experience. Change your inner conversation about them, and you will change their behavior toward you. This is not manipulation, it is the right use of law. Everyone in your world is a reflection of you. Their behavior toward you is the manifestation of your inner conversation about them. A woman wrote to me about a difficult mother-in-law. For years, their relationship had been tense, full of criticism and strain. Whenever she thought of her mother-in-law, her inner dialogue was, "She's always judging me. She doesn't accept me. She makes my life miserable." I instructed her to change that inner conversation to, "My mother-in-law is so loving and understanding. We share wonderful moments together." She practiced this faithfully, even though the outer circumstances didn't change immediately. Within a month, her mother-in-law's attitude began to soften. Small gestures of kindness appeared. Criticism turned into compliments. Today, they share a loving relationship that amazes the whole family. This was not about changing her mother-in-law. It was about changing her inner conversation about her. Now, an even deeper layer to speed your manifestations beyond anything you've experienced. In Ecclesiastes, it is written, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven." Many take this literally and think they must wait for the right time for their manifestations. But I tell you with certainty, time is a creation of your inner conversation. When your inner dialogue constantly speaks of waiting, of processes, of gradual improvement, you create time between you and your desire. That is why many remain stuck in the state of becoming instead of being. Their inner conversation always speaks of the journey, never the arrival. They say, "I'm getting better. I'm working toward my goal. I'm making progress." Though these sound positive, they actually create perpetual delay. Here's a profound truth. In imagination, where all creation occurs, there is no time. This is why the Bible speaks of God as the eternal "I am," not "I will be." Your inner conversation must reflect this timeless nature of consciousness. Instead of saying internally, "My business is growing," say, "I am perfectly supplied now. I am perfectly healthy now." A gentleman once came to me after years of financial struggle. His inner conversation was full of statements like, "Things are improving. I'm getting closer to prosperity. My debts are gradually decreasing." I explained that this very conversation was creating the experience of gradual change, of constant becoming. He changed his inner dialogue to speak from the end. "I love having more than enough." The results were immediate and striking. Within days, unexpected opportunities appeared. A long-forgotten investment paid out suddenly, a new business partnership emerged and completely transformed his finances. What others called coincidence, we recognize as law in action. Another crucial key: your inner conversation must be anchored in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Many try to change their inner dialogue by mechanically repeating new statements without the corresponding emotional tone. That's why their manifestations are slow or non-existent. In the Psalms it is said, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." This delight is the emotional tone that must accompany your inner conversation. When your inner dialogue flows naturally from the joy of already having your desire, manifestation becomes swift. Consider again the woman who desires marriage. Her inner conversation might be technically positive. "I am married to a wonderful man." But if these words lack the feeling of being happily married, they remain empty and powerless. When she assumes the feeling of being a loved wife, her inner dialogue naturally flows with statements like, "I love cooking dinner with my husband. Our evening walks together are so precious. I feel so blessed sharing life with my soulmate." These words carry the emotional tone of the fulfilled desire. Something deeper still, your inner conversation extends beyond your waking hours. The thoughts and dialogues occupying your mind as you fall asleep are especially powerful. That's why the Psalms instruct us to commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still. Most people fall asleep rehearsing the day's problems or worrying about tomorrow. Their inner conversation at this crucial time is creating more of what they don't want. Instead, as you drift to sleep, let your inner dialogue arise from the state of your wish fulfilled. Let it be natural, simple, and reflective of the joy of already having what you desire. I recall a man who had sought a specific position in his company for years. Each night he fell asleep thinking about how to get the promotion, what he had to do, whom he had to impress. His inner conversation was always about seeking, never about having. I instructed him to change his pre-sleep dialogue. Rather than planning and strategizing, he was to fall asleep each night with the inner conversation of already being in that role. His new inner dialogue included casual remarks like, "It's wonderful to have this responsibility. I love leading this department. My team is exceptional." Within 2 weeks, he was promoted, not only to the position he wanted, but with greater responsibility and compensation than he had imagined. Now let me address something many struggle with: the appearance of failure or delay. When things seem to go wrong, when circumstances appear to contradict your desire, your inner conversation becomes crucial. Most people allow their inner dialogue to be dictated by circumstances. This is precisely the opposite of how law works. In the book of Romans, it is written, "Call those things which be not as though they were." This is not mere positive thinking. It is a revelation of how consciousness creates reality. Your inner conversation must invoke the reality you desire regardless of appearances. A woman manifesting perfect health while dealing with a chronic illness refused to let her inner dialogue dwell on symptoms or medical reports. She kept a conversation of perfect health. "My body is strong and vital. Every cell in my body functions perfectly. I am the picture of health." Her doctors were astonished when her condition completely reversed, defying their prognosis. Another vital point for rapid manifestation: your inner conversation must be protected from others' doubts and negativity. When others speak of impossibilities, when they point to reality or facts, you must keep your inner conversation. Proverbs says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Your heart, your consciousness, is your inner conversation. When you allow external or internal voices to sway your inner dialogue, you give away your creative power. I remember a remarkable case of a young artist who came to me in despair. Gallery owners had rejected her work, critics had belittled her talent, and her family insisted she get a real job. But she understood this secret. Instead of letting their voices become her inner conversation, she held to an inner dialogue of success. "My art moves people deeply. Collectors value my work. My shows are always successful." She later told me that sustaining this conversation felt like standing firm in a storm of opposing opinions, but she persisted. Within months, a prestigious gallery owner discovered her work. Today, her paintings command significant prices, and the critics who dismissed her Now praise her unique vision. What changed? Not her talent. That had always been there. What changed was her inner conversation. Another key few grasp. Your inner conversation must be faithful to your assumption. If you assume the state of wealth, but your inner dialogue still talks of budgeting, saving, and financial caution, you are being unfaithful to your assumption. This divided inner conversation creates delayed and confused manifestations. In the book of James, it says, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." This double-mindedness isn't merely having doubts. It is maintaining contradictory inner conversations. You cannot speak inwardly as a rich person and, at the same time, as a needy one, as a healthy person and at the same time, as a sick one, as a loved person and at the same time, as a lonely one. You must choose your state and let your inner conversation be wholly faithful to it. See this clearly. Every moment of your day is an opportunity to align your inner conversation with your chosen state. When you shop, does your inner dialogue talk about prices and affordability? Or does it naturally discuss preferences and choices? When you dine out, does your inner conversation fret about cost or savor the pleasure of the experience? These seemingly small moments of inner dialogue are, in fact, crucial points in your manifestation process. Every inner word either aligns with your desire or contradicts it. There is no neutral inner conversation. One last secret that will transform your understanding. Your inner conversation isn't merely about words, but about the consciousness from which those words arise. When you truly assume a state, the appropriate inner conversation flows naturally, without effort or practice. That's why trying to monitor and control every thought is unnecessary and counterproductive. Instead, occupy the state of your wish fulfilled, and the right inner conversation will flow on its own. This is what the Bible means by, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus." It points to assuming the state of your fulfilled desire, from which all appropriate thoughts and inner dialogues naturally flow. I knew a man who struggled with relationships. He tried to change his inner conversation about love, but it felt forced and unnatural. Then he grasped this principle. Instead of trying to change his thoughts, he assumed the state of being happily married. From that state, his inner conversation shifted naturally. He no longer had to remind himself to think positive about relationships. The inner dialogue of a happily married man flowed effortlessly from the state he had assumed. Within months, he met and married a wonderful woman. But here's the crucial point. The meeting and marriage were not the miracle. The natural change in his inner conversation was the true miracle. The outer circumstances simply conformed to his new state of consciousness. As we close tonight, let me leave you with this final truth. Your inner dialogue defines your self-concept, and your self-concept determines what you manifest in your world. When you truly grasp this, you will never again worry about circumstances, conditions, or the opinions of others. You will know that your inner conversation is the only creative power, and you will use it wisely and deliberately. Tonight, as you leave, begin this practice immediately. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't prepare. Begin now. Listen to your inner conversation, then allow it to flow naturally from the state of your wish fulfilled. Let your inner dialogue be that of the person who already has what they desire. Remember, the secret I've shared tonight isn't new. It is as old as consciousness itself, but its power is as fresh and accessible now as it has ever been. Your inner conversation is creating your reality in this very moment. Use it wisely, use it lovingly, use it deliberately, for in the end, there is no one to change but self, and self is changed by the transformation of the inner conversation. The world around you, which seems so solid and real, is nothing but your inner conversation made visible. Change the conversation and you will change everything. And now, knowing this secret, go and test it in the laboratory of your own life. For it is written, "According to your faith be it unto you." Your faith is your inner conversation, and it will not fail you. That is the law and that is the promise. Let me share with you what truly happens in consciousness during the 72 hours following a genuine change in your assumption. The first 24 hours are crucial, for this is when your new assumption begins to take root in your subconscious mind. The second 24 hours reinforce this new pattern, And by the third day, a complete transformation of consciousness has occurred. Many of you wonder why your manifestations seem to take so long, why your reality does not immediately reflect your desires. But I tell you this, there is a specific period of gestation for every seed planted in consciousness, just as there is for every seed planted in the earth. 72 hours represent a complete cycle of transformation in consciousness. Consider this. In Scripture, we read of the 3 days Christ spent in the tomb before his resurrection. This is not merely a historical account, but a profound psychological truth. Every transformation in consciousness requires 3 days, 72 hours before externalization begins. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your whole approach to manifestation. You stop asking when your desire will appear and begin to understand the precise law governing all manifestation. You recognize that time is not an enemy, but a necessary component of psychological gestation. Let me tell you something vital about these 72 hours. They begin the moment you fully accept your desire as an accomplished fact. Not when you start wanting it, not when you start affirming it, but when you truly accept it as done in your consciousness. Here is a profound truth about this 72-hour period. It operates whether you believe in it or not. Just as a seed will take a specific time to germinate, whether or not you understand the process, your assumption will take approximately 72 hours to begin its manifestation, regardless of your conscious beliefs about time. Think about this. Every major change in your life was preceded by a change in your consciousness, roughly 72 hours before its physical manifestation. You may not have been aware of it, but this process was always at work. The law was operating all the same, acting in consciousness with absolute precision, transforming your entire world through a specific sequence that unfolds over these 72 hours. Let me break down exactly what happens during this crucial period of transformation. In the first 24 hours, something deep begins to occur within. The moment you truly accept your desire as fulfilled, your entire inner world starts to reorganize around this new assumption. Old thought patterns begin to dissolve, and a new pattern starts to form. Many of you have had fleeting moments of acceptance only to slip back into doubt and disbelief. But hear this, if you can maintain your new assumption for just 72 hours, regarding it as true regardless of outer evidence, you will set in motion forces that must result in its manifestation. Consider this. When a woman conceives, she does not immediately see outward evidence of pregnancy. Yet from the first moment of conception, forces are at work within her body, preparing the manifestation of new life. The same is true of your consciousness during these first 24 hours. During the second 24 hours, something even more remarkable occurs. Your new assumption begins to affect your subjective world, your thoughts, your feelings, your natural reactions to events. You begin to think from your wish fulfilled rather than thinking about it. Let me say something crucial about this second day. It is often when doubt tries to creep in. The outer world may still show no evidence of change, and your rational mind may attempt to convince you that nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, a massive reorganization is underway. Here is a profound truth about the second day. It is the period of the old man dying. Just as Christ spent the second day in the tomb, this is the time when your old thought patterns and beliefs must die to make room for the new. This can feel uncomfortable, even disorienting, but it is absolutely necessary. Think of it. Every transformation in nature passes through a period where the former form must die before the new can emerge. The caterpillar must cease to be a caterpillar before it can become a butterfly. The same principle applies to your consciousness during these crucial 72 hours. The discomfort you may feel during this period is evidence that transformation is occurring. Your old patterns and beliefs are dissolving, allowing your new assumption to take root and grow. The final 24 hours of this 72-hour period are perhaps the most crucial, for this is when a complete transformation of consciousness occurs. This is the period of resurrection, when your new assumption becomes so natural that you can hardly remember what it felt like to be in your former state. Let me share exactly what happens in these last 24 hours. Your new assumption, which has been gestating deep within, begins to surface. It no longer feels like something you're trying to believe. It simply feels like what is. Many of you may experience what appears to be a crisis during this final period, but know this: what looks like a crisis is often the breaking point where the old must give way to the new. It is the darkness before dawn, the last resistance of the old man before the new man emerges. Consider this: in Scripture, it was during the final hours in the tomb that the resurrection occurred, not gradually, not partially, but as a complete transformation. So it is with your consciousness during these last 24 hours. When it happens, the transformation is total. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable shifts in your experience of these 72 hours. You stop viewing them as a period of waiting and begin to recognize them as sacred time, time of transformation. Every hour becomes precious, every moment meaningful. Let me tell you something vital about these final hours. They often bring what seems to be a complete contradiction of your desire. This is what I call the moment of greatest appearance of failure. But remember, appearances are merely the shadow of past assumptions, not the reality of your present consciousness. Here is a deep truth about this final period. It is when your outer world begins to respond to your inner conviction. Things start to shift, often in ways you could not have planned or anticipated. People begin to treat you differently. Circumstances start to rearrange themselves. Think of this: every great transformation in history looked darkest just before its culmination. Crucifixion preceded resurrection. The darkest hour comes just before the dawn. This principle is mirrored in your own consciousness during these final hours. The very circumstances that seem to deny your assumption are often those being rearranged to accommodate its fulfillment. What looks like resistance is actually reorganization. This reorganization of your outer world follows an unchanging pattern, much like the transformation of your inner consciousness. Just as a seed must break through soil that seems to resist it, your new assumption must push through the appearances of your current reality. Let me share what is actually happening in your outer world during this time. People who seemed indifferent suddenly become helpful. Circumstances that looked fixed begin to move. Opportunities once invisible present themselves. None of this is by chance, it is by law. Many of you anxiously watch the outer world during these 72 hours, searching for signs of change. But I tell you, changes are occurring even if you cannot yet see them. Just as a plant grows beneath the soil before breaking the surface, your manifestation is taking form before becoming visible. Consider this: when you plant a seed, the soil must be disturbed. Old patterns must be broken to make room for new growth. So it is with your outer world during these 72 hours. What appears as disruption is, in fact, the necessary reorganization for your new assumption to manifest. Something extraordinary also happens in how you respond to outer circumstances during this period. You stop being disturbed by appearances that seem to contradict your assumption and recognize them as necessary adjustments within the grand pattern of manifestation. Understand this crucial point about the reorganization. It often unfolds in ways your conscious mind could never have planned. The wisdom of your subconscious, one with infinite intelligence, knows exactly how to produce the conditions required for your assumption to materialize. A profound truth about this outer reorganization: it follows the path of least resistance. While your conscious mind might imagine complicated scenarios requiring massive change, your subconscious finds the simplest, most natural route to the realization of your desire. Think of it. Every desire you hold contains within itself the seeds of its own fulfillment. When you plant that desire in consciousness through assumption, it begins to attract and arrange everything necessary for its manifestation. This arrangement often occurs in ways that seem miraculous to the conscious mind. The very circumstances that appeared to block your desire become the means of its realization. This is the wisdom of the law working through the perfect pattern of the 72-hour principle. This pattern unfolds in your experience with a precision that would astonish you if you could see it from a higher vantage point. Every thought, every encounter, every seemingly random event during these 72 hours forms part of an intricate dance orchestrated by your new assumption. Moment by moment, here is what is truly happening. Having accepted the new assumption, your consciousness begins to attract corresponding experiences. People start treating you according to your new self-concept, and circumstances begin to mirror your inner conviction. This is not coincidence, it is law. Many of you wonder why certain people suddenly change their behavior toward you, why new opportunities appear out of nowhere, or why solutions to old problems become clear in an instant. But hear this, none of it is sudden. Every change is the result of your transformed consciousness working through the perfect 72-hour pattern. Think of dropping a stone into a pond. Ripples expand outward in perfect circles, affecting the entire surface. Your assumption works the same way over these 72 hours, sending waves through the whole structure of your reality and touching every aspect of your world. When you truly grasp this principle, something extraordinary happens within you during this period. You begin to recognize every event, every conversation, every seemingly random occurrence as part of the pattern of faith. Nothing is insignificant, everything is meaningful. And know this vital truth about the unfolding pattern. It requires no effort on your part to maintain your assumption. You do not need to make things happen. You do not need to manipulate circumstances. The pattern unfolds by law, not by effort. These 72 hours represent a complete cycle of transformation, from the death of the old to the birth of the new. As the moon moves through its phases, as the earth turns from day to night, so your consciousness passes through this perfect pattern of transformation. Every great master who ever walked the earth taught the same truth in different words. 3 days in the tomb, on the third day, resurrection, the triple pattern of transformation. All pointed to this same law, operating in consciousness through the cycle. The very experiences you meet during this period, pleasant or unpleasant, are part of the perfect pattern of fulfillment. Nothing is out of place, nothing is accidental. Working with this pattern requires a complete reversal of your usual way of thinking. Rather than looking for evidence in outer events, you must hold unwavering awareness of the reality of your assumption during these 72 hours. Here is exactly how to maintain that awareness as the pattern unfolds. When you wake each morning during this period, let your first thought arise from the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. Before your feet touch the floor, before your mind engages with the day, renew the awareness of already being who you desire to be. Many begin their day by immediately checking outer reality for signs of change. But I tell you, the outer will not show evidence until the 72-hour cycle completes. Your task during this time is to live from your new assumption, regardless of appearances. Consider an actor assuming a role. They must hold the consciousness of that character throughout the performance. They cannot slip in and out and expect a convincing result. So it is with your new assumption during these 72 hours. When you truly understand this, you stop living in anticipation of change and start living from the awareness of change already accomplished. This is the secret of working with the pattern rather than against it. A crucial point about maintaining this awareness: it is not about forcing yourself to believe, it is about allowing yourself to feel the naturalness of your new state. The more natural it feels, the more powerfully the pattern works. During these 72 hours, every reaction, every response, every inner conversation must arise from your new assumption. This is not pretending or mere affirmation. It is actually occupying the desired state in consciousness. Know this: every time you react from your old state, you interrupt the pattern. Every time you respond from your new assumption, you strengthen it. The pattern requires consistency in consciousness to function according to its perfect law. The very circumstances tempting you to react from your old state are, in fact, opportunities to fortify your new assumption. Each challenge is a chance to prove the reality of your inner transformation. These challenging moments during the 72 hours are not obstacles to your manifestation. They are vital parts of the pattern itself, opportunities to test and anchor your new state in consciousness. Hold to your assumption consistently for the 72-hour period. Consider this: when you drop an object, gravity doesn't work. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It operates with perfect precision at all times. So it is with this law of consciousness. Your assumption, held steadily for 72 hours, must manifest with the same certainty that a released object must fall. When you truly understand this principle, something extraordinary happens to your approach to manifestation. You stop hoping and begin knowing. You stop pleading and start accepting. You stop wondering if it will work and start living in the certainty that it must work. This precision operates independently of your past experiences, your current circumstances, or the opinions of others. The law responds only to your consciousness, to your assumption maintained during these 72 hours. Here is a profound truth about this precise operation. It works the same for everyone, every time. Just as mathematics has no favorites and gravity does not discriminate, this law operates with perfect precision for anyone who applies it correctly. Every successful manifestation you have ever experienced, consciously or unconsciously, followed this exact pattern. The law did not bend or make exceptions. It simply expressed with mathematical accuracy what you assumed to be true. The same precision that seems to work against you when you doubt is the same precision that works for you when you hold your assumption. The law is always functioning with perfect exactness. Working with such precision requires a full understanding of how consciousness operates during these 72 hours. Every thought, every inner conversation, every feeling must align with your assumption with the same precision a mathematician brings to equations. Here is exactly how to maintain that precise alignment. When you wake, let your first thought arise from your new state. Throughout the day, let your inner conversations reflect your assumption. And when you go to bed, fall asleep as if your wish were already fulfilled. Many approach manifestation with a mixture of old and new states, alternating between doubt and belief, between old patterns and new assumptions. But hear this, the law requires precision. You cannot serve two masters. You must choose your assumption and hold it with unwavering fidelity. Consider a watchmaker assembling a timepiece. Every gear, spring, and component must be aligned precisely. A single misaligned piece affects the whole mechanism. So it is with your consciousness during these 72 hours. Every aspect must be in perfect alignment. When you truly understand this principle, your mental discipline becomes extraordinary. You become acutely aware of your thoughts, inner conversations, and reactions. You recognize that every mental movement either supports or undermines your assumption. This precision extends to your emotional state as well. You must feel as precisely as you think. The feeling of your wish fulfilled must become your dominant emotional state. Working with such precision requires constant watchfulness during these 72 hours. You cannot afford mental laziness or emotional indulgence in the old state. Every moment must be lived from your new assumption with mathematical exactness. Just as a scientist must maintain precise conditions for an experiment to succeed, you must maintain precise conditions in consciousness for your assumption to manifest. There can be no contamination by doubt, no dilution by fear. The very precision that makes this law seem demanding is what makes it infallible. When you hold your assumption with mathematical accuracy, the law must respond with equal precision. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And now I'm going to share one of the finest reflections from a dear friend of mine. Someone you surely know, whose impact is brutal and has changed countless lives.